Yeah, so we um, are launching here the development subcommittee of the Amherst Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. And Gaston, for your benefit, I can tell you there's nobody in the audience right now. It is the three of
Okay.
us.
All
So we're
right.
just
Well, so here we are. Our primary agenda today is to get concrete about the ADU event and to identify next steps in our marketing strategy. I see that as primary. Other items that we should cover today, just so that we get them on the radar.
um, I would say at this point, I think having a fairly good sense of who our content or our expert guests will be at that. Maybe
Yep.
uh, beginning to sculpt some sort of presentation from and determine how we want to circle back to those stakeholders on what we're asking them to do.
Okay. Why don't we start there and then continue to marketing? How does that sound?
Works
Sounds
for
great.
me.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we start with a roll call of our guests? And I'm taking notes here. I guess maybe Greg, you are too, but it'll help me to see it in front of me. So we've got Backyard ADUs is a recent confirm.
Yep.
You said what's the other construction company?
We
Mitchell?
heard we hear from Wright Builders, like WRIGHT.
Right Builders. Okay. Right.
Yep.
Right Builders. Yep.
And I got this on the calendar of
And
the rare forms.
what's the third? What was
Yeah.
first?
Yes, you're breaking up a lot, Gaston. We can't hear you very well.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Gaston back in a good cell service here, but the third one, which is the firm that Grover had connected us to, is Rare Forms.
RARE?
Yes. And they have more to their name that I'm forgetting right now. And I can get, but that's the folks on the builder side. Rare Forms, locally grown homes. And then on the lender side,
Really not getting it, Gaston. We get little bits and pieces of your voice. That's it. And now nothing. I don't know if you can hear us. If he can't hear us, maybe one of us should text him and just let him know he's not coming through.
Oh, we just lost him, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, that's probably
but at least maybe he can see that he's lost. In a way, that's better than being half here and he thinks he's talking to us and he isn't.
It's like he's talking to the upside down from Stranger Things.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'll keep an eye out for him.
So we have a couple of lenders at least, right?
I want to ask him. So I have booked Greenfield Cooperative Bank. Oh gosh, I always mix them up and I'm terrified I'm gonna my contact is Tara. Sorry, Greenfield Savings Bank.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here's Gaston on my cell. Hold on one second. Gaston. Sure. Yeah. So there's a phone way for me to get onto Zoom. Check. See if there is. Let me see if I can. Carol, I have Gaston on speaker on my cell here. Let me.
You
Gaston,
hold the phone up to your.
yeah, sorry. So Gaston, try talking and see if Carol can hear. Carol, could you hear him there?
Not at all.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure if the speakers work.
I see the number. I'm going to dial into Zoom.
Okay, you mean to send it to you, or you got the number?
See the phone numbers, so I'm going to use the dial-in method.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Where'd Carol go? Suddenly I have too many windows.
Have
I
you
think
lost me too?
No, you're here. I got you back. So yeah, Greenfield Savings Bank, and he was in touch with the ADU specific lender, which is
I can't remember the name
I
either.
think it's called Lighthouse.
Light something, but
believe it's-
yeah, maybe it's like, I don't know. He'll know.
Yeah. And sorry, let me just. Now I'm nervous that where's the invite? All right. Um, okay, Gaston's in the audience now. Here we go. Um, all right. Gaston, you are now an audience member. I might have two of you here. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a.
Is that working now?
Can
You
hear you
sound
now. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good. Great. Thank you. Sorry. I appreciate your patience.
all good. Yeah, so we also, I'm not sure if it's the same dial in or a separate one, but we also see it, your name and you're muted. So
I have the video there, so let's I'm just going to talk through the phone, which
Okay.
I can hear you
Yeah,
well,
it works.
and if you can
That
hear me,
works.
then we're good.
Yeah, that's
That works
fine.
good.
That's great.
So
Yeah, so we were talking about kind of who was with us, and we had mentioned we had Right Builders, Backyard ADUs, and Rare Forms, locally grown homes. And then on the lender side, we have Greenfield Savings Bank, and Gaston
Lighthouse.
and Lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Okay,
Yeah.
confirming that we booked them. And I have also booked the town permitting administrator, who's the main person responding to ADU inquiries. So she's got um, the spiel from the town perspective. And
who is that? Or just what's the name?
that is Jennifer Mullins, she works for the you know in my office here, but technically
Okay.
for the buildings and the buildings and inspections department.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So she's on the building permitting side, so which is still a step even with the zoning changes. So that's our, and then that's who's booked now. We had talked at one point about potentially recruiting somebody who owns one, or perhaps lives in one. We could pursue that, but I wonder if it makes sense. I mean, a question that I have is, do we want to select a specialist from each practice, to be part of this sort of, we talked about like a 20 some minute kind of brief
Yes, I guess my thought is to, for example, we have 3 builders, right?
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion would be to pick identify 3 major areas of what we would want a builder to tell people, and give them each something to share, so that they introduce themselves and then tell us one thing, kind of building from, say, there's ABC, from the first steps. While I don't know, I don't know how we define that, but I guess I'd be inclined to see if we can get everyone a few, I guess 5 minutes, 4 minutes to say one thing that they would like to share. What do you guys think? Is this too complicated to coordinate, or does it seem feasible? How much time do we want presentations to be happening total?
Remind me when this starts and ends and how long we have?
We had no, I think we talked about 4:30 to 6:30, and it does need to end firmly at 6:30. And my thought had been we would do, this sort of, to the degree that it's a formal presentation, that would occur sometime after 5, allowing for, after
I guess.
5, you know, uh, audience members to, to get the meat of the content. So maybe like, 5:20 or 5:30, something like that. And then, Gaston, my recollection of our last discussion is we had, I think all of us, or at least some of us, had expressed a preference for a relatively modest length of sort of
Yes,
formal,
yes, yes. Yes. So let's say we start at 5:20, 5:25 or so, then 25 minutes to 30 minutes max, so that there's at least a good half hour of more mingling time.
Yeah, agree. So
So
I mean,
we don't start till 5:30? I thought you just said 5, Greg. I just want to get
4:30,
right.
we'd have like just discussion, like
Right.
maybe a very brief welcoming at like 4:45 type of thing. I can welcome folks, that kind of thing. But really, we want to have a program where we think most people can get there, and we don't want it to be too long because we want, I think, connections to be the main thing.
No, I just was,
Yeah.
I thought that Greg had said that part, that was the program would start at 5, and then I thought you said it started at 5:30. So I was trying to get the time clear.
I think Greg said 5:20, 5:30. I'm with him on that range. Exactly when it's probably a game time call, but yes, I don't know what's the optimal start time after 5, but it's when we think most people who want to get there can get there.
I guess it seems to me to have something that you're saying it starts at 4:30 and then you really don't do anything till 5:20 seems, what are you supposed to do in the meantime? I don't know. It seems late to have it start at 5:30 and not start doing anything to 5:20, but I'll go with whatever you guys want.
Maybe what we should do is two short rounds of presentation, 4:45 and 5:30. We could do like a 15-minute round of presentations. Well, I'm brainstorming here, but I guess, Greg, you've heard Carol's objection and my brainstorm. What do you think?
I think for, if we're going to include 6 people, in a presentation, I think that, we got to plan on 30 minutes for that.
But maybe what we can do is have split the builders and have one builder in the early presentation and one in the latter, and just to add that variety to your thinking right now.
Sure, that might be a little more viable. I think logistically it makes sort of content assignment a little trickier. So I'm trying to think. I think the trick here would be keeping in mind that like we're going to have a range of, some folks very comfortable public speaking, maybe some folks a little less so. And so I'm trying, so we'll need in order to affect a sort of dual, like 15-minute presentation, we'd want some really tight prompts that let people go to like, their strengths. But the trick is to asking folk, like 5 minutes gets used up pretty quickly. Especially if somebody's not particularly prepared, prepared word for word.
Let me offer something while you're interject something here, and that is maybe we don't need to start at 4:30. If we said it's 5 o'clock, and then we had the kind of remarks at let's say 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
does that, and so we're just asking the presenters to be there an hour and a half plus setup time. Maybe it doesn't need to be that long, and we're making it sprawling for no reason. So what do you guys think to that that thought?
I guess I'm stuck at why it should, if I were going to something to learn about ADUs, I would want to hear briefly what everybody had to say and then have my chance to go and talk to specific ones or whatever. We're going to have them at places, each of them, right? Where people can go and talk to the specific people about specific things they might want to hear. And if it were me, I'd rather hear all of it first than some of it and then
Yeah.
some of it later. I don't get why to break
Yeah.
it up. I
Well,
don't.
it's a constraint of time. If we were doing it Saturday, then I think we could do that. I mean, I understand that we're trying to get in to people getting there after work with a 6:30 p.m. end point, and so I understand that our schedule has to be really shaped by those constraints. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay, but if 6 people have a 5 minute slot, that's half an hour, right? That's 5 to 5:30 or 5:10 to 5:40. And then you have almost an hour for people to be able to go and talk to who they want to talk to and ask the questions that they have and wander around and do things. I don't, why doesn't that work, I
Can
guess?
people get there at 5? Well, do we think that our clientele will have trouble showing up at 5 p.m.? That's if our answer to that was no, then I would agree with you, Carol. So I'm just concerned with the 9 even exists anymore. Greg, I mean, I don't know, what do you have data or feelings about what to predict here?
Two opposite poles. I think probably, a little bit of data, but more so feelings. I think starting a presentation right at 5 might cut some people off. And, and Carol, I hear you on the sort of, it's maybe a little bit oddly shaped, but I think that, I tend to think waiting on the formal presentation, until 5:25 or 5:30 would let a certain set of folks get there after work. And I think if we were, Gaston's kind of proposal to split the difference a little bit and maybe start the meeting at 5, I think a half hour of front end mingling slash, just informal learning from, I envision, the individual lenders and builders, would have a table. Each have their own table, so, generally these shops have like a little sign with their, certainly the banks will have, eh, content to sort of like, because some folks are going to walk in with a specific question, like I,
Okay.
I know about the, the building side, but how do I choose between a HELOC and the other loan, or I know about, I have cash to pay for this, but, where do I start with the town? Some folks might come in with specific questions and could just go to their respective,
Okay.
and
That's,
Mhm,
well, that would work for
mhm.
me. If you start at 5 o'clock, people have their things set up. People can come in and do whatever they want. At 5:30, you have the presentations, and then you have another half hour for questions. That's fine. That's an hour and a half program
Okay.
thing. And that deals with, I just couldn't see separating them into 2 parts and having something that's the
Okay.
part that it.
Okay.
Good. I think this is a good. I think this is a good discussion. We got somewhere. So let's run with this program, and this lets us tell. Moving to how we communicate with our invitees, we encourage them to be there no later than 4:45, but to come 4:30, 4:45 to set up. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And and then as far as the, the topical split, you know, yeah, I mean, I guess, maybe I'm trying to think like what is an efficient way between the three of us and then our six respective stakeholders here. What's in because we probably want to see those in advance, if we do it
Oh,
that way.
okay. All right. So here, let me propose a framework. Sorry about that. So framework is that we write all of the lenders and ask that we're looking for one to walk us through the kind of whatever the basics of lending in X amount of time, and we see who volunteers. We're really looking for one, and then we'll let the others introduce themselves and add one kind of point that they'd like to add to what just preceded them. Does that seem like a reasonable way to approach it?
I don't know that I can figure this out, but I would rather if we had like two different lending related questions, one for each of them, since there are two of them,
Okay.
as I think. And because otherwise
Good.
it's like, it feels like you're giving somebody advantage over somebody else, and I don't want to
Okay.
look like that.
I like Carol's comment that we can frame the presentations around questions that we define. Of course, they can give us feedback, but we try to give it a kind of like an FAQs of building an ADU.
Okay, yeah, that could work. Yeah. So I'm thinking about my brain's kind of moving. How will we frame those to lenders versus builders? Yeah, and I think there's like, I guess part of maybe what I'm um struggling with is not like I want to ask one of these people what the questions should be. And
Right.
that
No, that's it right there. That we'll tell them we want to frame the presentation as like FAQs. What questions do you think people should be asking lenders, and which of those would you be comfortable speaking to? And we build the program from that.
Okay. So what questions should
What
we
do you
ask you?
think?
Kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. What questions should we be asking you, and which is there one of these in particular that you'd like to speak to? And yes, we do need to make it like we want 3-minute answers or 4-minute answers to these questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess
because that lets us get that lets us have everyone say something. If that type of time frame, like 6 times 4, that's the max, really.
That's good. It'll take 5 minutes each, even if it's 6 times 4. So that's perfect.
Yeah, and I guess, and maybe I should ask, is one of you open to emceeing this?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay. Carol, is that cool if we have
That's fine.
okay.
Yes.
All right. And Gaston, I think, you'll have to kind of like, be active in, managing the timing of, of this thing. But I think you'll probably be good at that.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess so we'll have to do some outreach to our respective partners here and say, hey, thanks for RSVPing. We're going to frame this as an FAQ. So
yes.
So what question would you be excited to answer? For
yes.
3 to 4 minutes. So shall I kind of write that language up and then we can kind of distribute it to the different folks that we've respectively been communicating with?
That sounds great.
That sounds good.
Okay. And then, all right, so that's kind of our content. I mean, and that will flesh out, I think that can get us to, we're never going to cover every last base in this presentation, but that was never the goal. But then I guess, so is there more to talk about as far as content right now?
Well, the other kind of content is refreshments.
Content for your stomach. Sure. Shall we do some?
Do we have? I mean, yeah, we have a budget we can use for this. What do people like after work? I mean, chips and fruit or something. I don't know. Or just some some bubbly waters and that kind of thing.
That seems good. Chips, crackers, maybe crackers and cheese
Okay.
and bubbly waters. Yeah.
And enough refreshments to go around. I guess we need to find out what the library's rules are.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. The other question I had, okay, so yeah, and I can, we can spend, we have a trust line, I think, for that kind of thing. The, I think I had asked and I have, Sam Giffen, who's the communications person for town, working on a flyer today, actually.
Great.
I propose that she, frame it like an informal RSVP on Facebook, so we can just track a very loose metric of, how we're doing on turnout, and to frame it that,
Okay.
RSVP is appreciated and not required.
Okay.
And that'll give us a sense of, kind of who we're buying for to some degree. Um,
So we'll do a link and a QR code, and then we can put up the QR code on some well-placed posters, maybe.
yeah, and I think, and we, also, and I guess sorry, my brain's going to marketing now, but other sort of content or logistics stuff to cover for the day. So food.
Oh, is parking, is it self-explanatory?
Are they parking probably on the street, mostly, down there? I
Okay.
think, and there's some spots in the library,
All
but
right.
so yeah, we'll put that in the flyer.
I don't have anything else for content except that we should have a table. And then get a volunteer besides us or maybe one of us to staff a table, like we did at the
Got it.
fair, at the block party.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, so
Yeah, I
we
mean,
can,
have our own setup. I think we should do that.
Okay.
It's good to always get more people thinking about joining the trust, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. So, so maybe, Gaston or Carol, would one of you want to send an email to trust members, inviting somebody to play that role? Or I could do it too, if you prefer.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. Unless Carol wants that outreach, but I'm happy to see.
What trust members would show up. I'm sorry, I missed I'll ask them, but I forgot. I missed what I'm supposed to be asking
Just
them.
inviting trust members to see if we can get a volunteer or two to sit at a designated trust table, amidst the rest of the vendor tables.
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I can sit there if nobody else wants to. So
yeah, although probably good for,
Great.
ideally
I
for
have
the three.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll do that.
And
Awesome.
okay, great. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's, you know, I think that's really solid for, for content. I don't think there's probably some other stuff will pop up as far as like logistics, but, I can, if anything's urgent, I can, communicate, I guess, with each of you individually via email.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carol.
I was just going to say, I think, yeah, that the biggest thing now is the marketing, because that has to happen sooner. We have a little more time closer to it to get the details of the other part straightened out.
Agree. So yeah, so I should have a flyer ready by the end of the day today, if all goes as planned. And and Sam up in communications is ready to push that out. And sort of, and she'll do that via like town communication channels, like sort of email and text and stuff. She'll put it on the town's Facebook page, which gets a fair amount of traffic. And I don't know if either you are active social media folks, but if you could look for, I can have Sam CC me when stuff goes out on social, and if there's specific like neighborhood groups or whatever you're familiar with, or any kind of any sort of more grassroots local
Thank
stuff,
you.
I think sharing it
Yeah,
there.
I could put it. I'll post it on LinkedIn where some Amherst people I'm connected to.
Yeah.
Well, I can send it to Amherst neighbors.
Yeah. Oh, and Carol, you can send us that to that email list you've got too.
Yes, and I will do
Yes.
that too. So when I get the flyer, I will send it to the list and to Amherst neighbors. It's probably on the list, actually.
And Carol, what I'll do is
Okay.
I'll ask for a JPEG as well, so you can just put it literally right in the body of your email.
That's great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And you can link to a PDF version as well. We'll put it online as well.
We're both. Yes, we'll
yeah.
do both. That's good.
And then the other thing we talked about, and I think Sam, was optimistic there might be interest, is in trying to do some sort of article, if we can get it placed in advance of the event.
Yes.
So yeah, that, so I think, so I think a quote from one of you would be great.
Let's get the flyer, and then we'll send that to Scott Mersbach. We can send it to Amherst, the Indy, to the Current, etc. It would be great if we could have that page where you will try to get these RSVPs. If that could also have the flyer, right? So that you get the QR code and you get the information again. And I wonder if even we could have, thank you, perfect. We could even have links to these builders and lenders.
Sure. Yeah. We can kind of just do a dedicated web page for this, or find ways to like, have a central tool like that. I think it'll all be kind of variants on the same content, which is like generally how these things get done. But I think Sam was open to doing a little press release,
Awesome.
so I'll, it'd be good to have a quote, I mean, honestly, like, Kara, I'd love to get a quote from you if we could, just sort of like, because I know you're kind of interested in both, tracks of sort of like
activism.
Well, activism, like affordable housing, as well as like, I know you've been interested in sort of missing middle stuff and, all that, like, which these ADUs represent, so I think there's a neat connection there.
I'll see if I can come up with something. I'll send it to you, and then you can use it or not, depending on what you think of it.
Awesome.
When I actually do it.
All right.
And I won't feel bad if you don't use it, believe me. So
for sure. And
no
I think,
problem.
And I guess one question is, of our vendors here, is it worth, I'll talk to Sam about the best strategy for, like, I don't know that we're going to be able to get quotes from everybody, or if that would make for a great press release, but I think probably a builder might be a little more compelling.
I would love to get the Lighthouse's. Well, Lighthouse has this quote about having a goal of funding 500 ADUs this year.
That's
great.
A
good quote for a person.
Yes.
In Massachusetts.
So and if Gaston, then if you want to reach out to them and that, if you want to see me on that, and I can hopefully speed up getting that to Sam, and then maybe I'll ask on the builder side. I mean, so Right Builders is kind of, like is is local, I think here to Amherst, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're based here.
Northampton maybe, but yeah.
You know, back area uses regional, although they're kind of emerged from this part of the world. Rare Forms is from East Hampton. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not quite sure how to, you know,
Greg, let's put this a sentence about this in the same email we're sending where we ask them what question.
okay. Cool. I think maybe Wright is the way to go, just because they're probably the most well known, and that might be a draw. But yeah, we can ask for quotes from everybody. All right. Is there more? You know, and then I think, you know, if go ahead.
Yeah. No, I didn't have some. I was going to start making stuff up on the spot.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, so on the press side, we'll get some quotes and go from there. On the and work with Sam on getting out there, and ideally, if we could get a, you know, get something in advance of the event, I think that would serve us. And I guess the last thing I would say too is just to think about gatekeepers. Oh, do we lose him again? I think we lost Gaston in an elevator, but hopefully he'll rejoin us. You know, just thinking randomly, like casually, our contact at Amherst College, you know, shared that she'd share it with, with internal lists there. We should just think about who are the folks that we can personally reach out to.
Oh, you can see him now.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here now.
Oh, welcome. Yeah, Gaston, I was just saying, sort of outreach wise, you know, if we can be thinking about who are the gatekeepers or, networked folks that we can make some personal follow-ups with.
League of Women's Voters for sure.
League of Women Voters. You know, if anybody, you know, I don't know if there's neighborhood groups you all are involved in, or if maybe the PTA or something like that. You know.
Well, at that point, we'll ask everybody on the trust to help us.
Sure. Okay. All right.
So to recap, we've got our time frame. Greg, you're gonna prepare an email to go out to our guests, and I will send that on to the people that I communicated with. And Carol, you're gonna see if any the trust members would like to volunteer to be at the table. And we've envisioned our, I guess, Greg, you'll get back to me and Carol when we've got a draft flyer.
Yes. Depending on how quick Sam's going upstairs, that might come with the outreach email.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Oh, that would be amazing.
And then we will get it out as we discussed to whoever we've got. I'll get it out to the list, and whatever anybody else I can think of that I might know around. And who's going to get it to the Gaston? You mentioned all the papers. Are you going to get it to them?
Well, I guess this press release, I would guess all press releases automatically go to the Gazette, but you know, I can also do a personal outreach. Yeah, I mean, once we got the flyer, we're in business.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's yeah.
Or at least Greg just said we are not going to try to have a trust meeting after this because there's no more urgency.
So
I missed that.
Waiting to confirm either way. And Gaston, we can maybe I can brief you when we're offline. But So we should have clarity on that by Monday or Tuesday, I think. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if people can make it, it would be nice to take advantage of everyone being there to like just connect for a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
And maybe that's where we could we'd have like outside the hubbub of the event, chance to say, send farewell to Grover and just have a human connection we haven't had as a full trust in
Yeah, that'd be
ever.
great.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point is, Greg, that the Habitat for Humanity has maybe put the brakes on their request. Is that what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
And for reasons unrelated to our process.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should not let the motivation that came from that go. So whether we have that policy conversation in June or July, we should really have it.
Oh, sure. So yeah, if you wanted to stay on track, for that, I'll tally up my poll and see where we're at.
Let's see where we're at. We can check in and with whatever new information we got.
Great.
All right.
Sounds good.
So I guess we are adjourned.
I think so.
All right. Good to see you guys.
Fantastic.
Wow,
Great
it's
to
a
see you both.
great subcommittee. We there's a saying in Spanish, we're like frying and eating as we go. It's like
And you really were eating and flying, or at least traveling.
I was having French fries a minute ago.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
hey.
Probably why the saying came to mind. All right,
All right.
take it easy.
Take
Bye.
care, y'all. See you
Thanks to you
later.
both.
Yeah.
Thanks to you both.
Bye.
Bye.